This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your daily recap of the information that affects Iowa's farmers, producers, and consumers, right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning broadcast team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, and Mark Magnuson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Dustin Hoffman.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Hoffman. Today is Tuesday, August the 1st, 2023. We're so glad you could join us. Hard to believe we're already into the 8th month of 2023, just a few short weeks away from the harvest season, and also about 9 days away from the Iowa State Fair. Riley, I think, is already out there looking for parking spots and places he can get his food. Anyway, that being said, we've got a lot of things going on in the state, including the FSA here in the state of Iowa, opening 46 counties for emergency grazing and haying of the CRP land. So we'll talk with the folks there. We'll also have a check of your ag weather outlook. But first, let's run down those markets. It's time now for the Ag Matters PM Closing Market Summary, your source for market analysis and settlement prices from the day's trade in Chicago, courtesy of the folks at agmarket.net. Well, we're at the end of another trading day, and it's time to check in with Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Jacob, what did we see in those grain markets today?
The beans tried to stay off here and put a turnaround Tuesday in place. They had some success here at the end of the day, and being 12 higher at the close, trading around that 1344 level for November. All in all, a positive move here. You look at what's going on in the corn and wheat market, and it's just very disappointing. So, when we got the acreage report, back in June, we saw that at the end of June, we saw the market starting to continue to grow. Well, that doesn't go with some choppiness. It's not straight lines, and now you're kind of starting to see that move back out from the separation. All in all, the wheat market's getting some negative news with Ukraine, Russia not having additional problems, them finding ways to get some wheat moving, and the corn market's kind of following that lead. With just some very ugly technical trade, you got some lack of support there. You're also starting to see the weather models that have potentially came in and gave some timely rains to certain areas that needed it here over the last week, and it just continues to put that pressure on this market.
Well, I know, speaking of weather, I know last week everybody was focused on the heat, and boy, I mean, it was pretty brutal here. I'm sure it was for you guys as well. And I commented to a couple people. I said that I could have grilled my steaks on Saturday with just leaving the grill open and not lighting the coals. So, but now we're seeing that so far is predicted that August might be a little cooler, or at least, mid 80s is a cool down of, 15 degrees. But if we get some of that rain shower activity they're commenting on, especially right now during pod fill getting going and pod setting is happening. I mean, that's kind of like what we saw last month when the corn got that cool weather and a few rain showers that they needed right at pollination time.
Absolutely. 2 weeks ago, you kind of look back, a large majority of the corn crop pollinated, and it was pretty cool. Then that was the week that we were talking about all the heat. The next week we have a lot of heat, but in certain areas such as southern Wisconsin, northern Illinois, northwest Missouri, it was like a greenhouse. You had that 90-degree heat, but you also had we had 3 inches of rain that week here in southwest Wisconsin. So, the weather has just kind of played out to where, hey, we don't feel like this is going to be that above trend line yield. I mean, that's not changed my mind, but the idea that we could have a record production, possibly record yields, is not out of the question now. And so, I'm no agronomist. I'm not walking out in these fields and counting rows right now. I haven't been on any type of tour. I do think that this will, make the tours very, very receptive to everyone's ear. I mean, every year it seems like we get more and more listeners to some of these crop tours that go on. And I think this year is going to be something, hey, we want to see people walking out in the fields. We want to see what this is actually happening in there, because, from the 75 mile an hour test across I-80 looked pretty good the other day when I drove it. We came back through I-90, southern Minnesota, and, it was the stands that looked pretty uneven. It kind of looks like from the road, that things have kind of caught up and been okay. So we'll see when people start looking at the fields and eventually combines rolling.
All right, so switching over to that livestock side of things, obviously with corn going a little bit lower today, was cattle able to take advantage of that? I know cattle's been kind of in a funky position despite corn markets kind of being lower.
Yeah, I mean we've this is that race to the top, and we pushed this cattle market so hard, so heavy on very bullish news that are pretty known about, and the market's continued to move up. We've seen a little bit of steadiness over the last 2 or 3 weeks. We had some negative numbers coming on the placements number, but all in all, the cattle market's just needed something to stimulate it. Today we got a boxed beef price during the morning report that was up significantly. We were $6 higher in choice boxes, so that really was kind of what gave the cattle the okay to go ahead. Even yesterday we saw cattle or beans and corn down significantly, and feeder cattle just kind of followed them down. It was almost like an entire risk off day. It was the last day of the month too. You're coming in here today to the first day of this month. There's a lot of times you see some type of these end of the month money flows from the funds affect the marketplace. But I think more so this was kind of that fundamental okay that if the box beef go and the fat cattle go higher, then maybe they can come in here. It's a lot better opportunity for them to afford these feeder cattle to be able to fill these pens up, because the word I've been getting from these guys that are selling these high price pens is they're making some very, very, very good money here. They're very happy with where they're at. But man, the idea of going out there and spending this type of money, adding this type of risk to their operation to fill these lots up with high price feeder cattle is getting harder and harder to do. So we do need to see them give an opportunity to be able to get some stuff hedged in place.
What about in the hog markets? Have they been just kind of quietly holding their own there? Did we see some movement too much one way or the other today?
Yeah, I mean this October and December contract, is made new highs for the moves here today. We backed off of it a little bit. We ended up closing 30-40 cents lower. The pork cutouts here, the pork cutout futures have been significantly stronger over the last 3-4 months, and so we've watched this continue this pace. We had looked like we had bellies down this morning, so our cutouts were down a little bit, but I would just consider that choppy, just some back and forth, still staying in a steady upward move. So I don't think there was anything really significant today that affected that market.
All right. Well, Jacob, thanks so much for the information today. And of course, if folks want to get in touch with agmarket.net, what's the best way for them to do that?
Just give me a shout here, 608-384-5438. Look us up on social media, but the easiest way to do it, go to agmarket.net. Take a look at our 30-day free trial of our agmarket.net intel. Gets all of our information.
All right. Well, Jacob, thanks so much for the insight. We'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
And that again was Jacob Burks of agmarket.net. Let's go ahead and look at the closing numbers. Those come to us courtesy of the folks at Bar Chart. September corn was down 7 at $4.97 even. December down 5 3/4 at $5.07 1/4. September beans up 16 1/4 at $13.86 3/4. November new crop up 9 1/2 at $13.41 1/4. Soy meal up $4.30 at $4.2810. Soy oil $1.28 higher at $64.39. Chicago wheat down 13 1/2 at $6.78 1/4. Minneapolis wheat unchanged at $8.69 1/2. Kansas wheat down 11 3/4 at $8.17 3/4. Oats down 1 3/4 at $4.54 1/2. August live cattle $1.45 higher at $179.50. August feeder cattle were $2.87 higher at $248.47. Lean hogs down 45 cents at $103.67. Pork cutouts were up 55 cents at $111.50. Class 3 milk for August down 24 cents at $17.45. And that's been our Ag Market Recap. We're going to take a short break and hear from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soy Checkoff. When we come back, I talk with Curtis Goettsch of the Iowa State Farm Service Agency. This is Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Welcome back to AMPM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Dustin Huffman. Well, we know the dry conditions have been problematic for our crop growing here in the state, but it's also proven to be a problem for pasture land and for grazing and baling for the forage for our cattle, sheep, and goats. Those producers have been lobbying hard to get the Farm Bill provisions that allow for the emergency haying and grazing of CRP lands opened up, and the FSA has done just that. Joining me now is Curtis Goettsch of the Iowa Farm Service Agency. And Curtis, bring us up to date with what is going on.
Yeah, so as many of you know, we've had another year of historic drought here in Iowa. And so part of the 2018 Farm Bill authorizes the use of certain CRP acreages for that emergency use when we run into drought issues. So it opens up haying and grazing of CRP. And so how that's different in an emergency situation such as we have this year is those counties that are eligible, we don't have the associated 25% reduction. So our non-emergency situations, there's always that opportunity to do some haying and grazing. And some producers do take advantage of that. But when we run into those emergency situations, the Farm Bill dictated that they did not want there to be a reduction in those situations. And so that's kind of what we have going on. We have 46 counties in Iowa that are eligible. And that is kind of this week is the first opportunity. The nesting season ends after August 1st. So on August 2nd, folks can begin that haying and grazing. But the first thing they have to do is they have to visit the county office and get authorized to do that. So they have to check and make sure that that contract is in fact eligible, and then they have to sign some paperwork prior to doing any of those activities.
All right, Curtis, so we know that it's been opened up, but can you maybe explain to our viewers as to what the criteria are for those provisions to be activated?
Yeah, absolutely. So the most easiest way to meet that is what we call D2 drought. So the drought monitor gets updated weekly, and any counties that are at D2 or greater of a drought category are authorized and after the nesting season. So anything that falls after our primary nesting season that hits that D2 or greater is going to be considered eligible. So that's the main way. Now, we do have some counties that are right on the fringe of that. They're seeing the impacts of the drought. They've probably been D1 drought for most of the year. And they may have early on seen some D2 drought, but they've since come out of it because of some recent rain. But the damage was already done. In those cases, the county committee process that we have there in each of our local county offices, they have a county committee, and those county committee members can put together information to that county that shows that we've had a forage loss. And so if we've had a forage loss of 40% or greater in those county offices, they submit a request to authorize that, and that goes to the state committee, and the state committee can authorize that, assuming that they meet the requirements for that 40% loss.
Of those 46 counties, Curtis, 20 of those have been listed as restricted haying and grazing. Can you tell us what the story is there?
So what that is the 26 counties have met either one of the two, either the 40 or either the D2 or the 40% loss. The 20 that are restricted, they're at a higher level of drought, and they have authorized what we call the Livestock Forage Disaster Program, which we refer to as LFP. And so that issues payments to producers where we see an extreme drought situation. So that's even above the minimum level it takes to get in. And so with that, when that contract or when those benefits are offered, then there's a restriction that comes in place that helps protect some of the more, we've got some practices that are a little more at risk when we get into those higher drought areas. And so they restrict the practices, and then they also restrict it to 50% of the acreage. So in those other 26 counties that are authorized, 100% of the acreage is eligible of those contracts that are eligible to take for hay or to graze. In the restricted counties, only 50% of the acreage is available, and then it's a fewer number of practices. So we have a whole laundry list of different kinds of practices out there: filter strips, waterways, different wetland practices, water quality practices. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of practices. Only certain ones underneath the LFP restriction are eligible. And so it's kind of good news and bad news. It's restricted on the CRP haying and grazing side, which I guess in some cases might be bad news. But the good news is that there are the Livestock Forage Disaster Program has been authorized, and that means that there will be payments available for folks that have livestock to go in and apply for that program.
And of course, if I'm not mistaken, the participants need to realize that this is open for haying or grazing, not haying and grazing. So, well, it is open for both, but you have to pick just one, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So it's one or the other. And That's just basically to protect. So we don't want them to necessarily hay it off and then turn cattle or other livestock in on top of that after they've taken that hay off. And so they've got until August 31st to go in and get the hay cut. But if they're going to graze, they can graze all the way until September 30th. So there's a longer window to graze if that's what they're going to do. But the haying is a fairly short window. Year after year, it's always been that way. We usually get questions when we get down to the end of August if we're going to extend it, because inevitably, even though it hasn't been raining much this summer, it seems like whenever we want to go cut CRP, all of a sudden it starts to rain. In fact, in places in Iowa today, we're seeing some rain. But again, we'll hope that we'll see, we'll hope to see conditions improve. But for these counties, they'll be authorized to take advantage of haying and grazing.
Again, Curtis, if folks have any questions or want to get signed up or find out if they're qualifying in their counties, how do they do that?
The best way is to go to your local county office. We have staff there, both on the FSA and NRCS side, that have been trained to basically walk you through the process. There's only a few pieces of paper that you have to sign. We've got a plan supplement. It kind of gives you the do's and don'ts on one sheet of paper. And then we have the authorization worksheet that you fill out as well. So it's a pretty simple process. In some counties, it'll be a pretty long line because there'll be a lot of people wanting to take advantage of it. And it just kind of depends. Each county is a little different, but I definitely expect that we'll have some producers take advantage of this.
Well, Curtis, thanks again for taking the time to visit with us here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
Thank you for having me.
That again was Curtis Goettsch of the Iowa State Farm Service Agency here on Ag Matters PM. If you want a complete rundown of those 46 counties, you can find it in the story at iowaagnet.com. That includes the breakdown of the 26 that are unrestricted and the 20 that are restricted. Let's go ahead and look at that ag weather outlook. Well, I know we're only a few hours into the month of August, but so far the thoughts of being cooler and possibly wetter have started to come to fruition. We saw more cloud cover off to the west, and we could see showers moving in tonight. What's that going to mean for us? Well, let's see what the National Weather Service has to say for the next 24 hours. Well, we saw a lot of clouds mixed in the western part of the state today, just a few peaks of sunshine here and there. There was more sunshine off to our east. Highs today were pretty much in the mid to upper 80s. Now tonight, look for mostly cloudy skies across the state. There'll be some chances of isolated storms, mostly in the south and the west. Lows will be from the mid-60s to around 70. And then tomorrow, mostly cloudy across the whole state. Chances in showers and thunderstorms popping up everywhere. And we're going to see highs anywhere from about 81 to 86 degrees. Taking a look at the affiliate weather map for you for tomorrow, we're seeing Cherokee, mostly cloudy skies, chance of showers and storms, and a high of 86. Shenandoah, partly sunny, a chance of storms, and 83. Des Moines, showers and storms likely, and 82. Waterloo, partly sunny, and a chance of storms, and 86. Albia, look for showers and storms, and 81. And Clinton, chance of showers with cloudy skies, and 82 degrees. For more detailed forecasts in your area, tune to your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate. And that's been the Ag Weather Outlook. With that, we're at the end of today's show. You can find all our content online at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, and in our YouTube channel. While you're there, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified each and every time we put out a new episode of AMPM, plus any of our other video projects. Of course, if you've missed the wrap-up of the Brazil series, that was wrapped up last Friday, you can catch that whole series as well at our YouTube channel. Don't forget about our free twice daily market podcasts. They come to us from Google, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, and Podbean. From the IARN studios in Des Moines, I'm Dustin Huffman. For Riley Smith and Mark Magnuson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.